and welcome to HISD Up Close. I'm Board President Juliet Stipeche. On today's show, we'll discuss the district's latest initiative to have every student reading proficiently by 3rd grade. And then, my friend and fellow board member, Manuel Rodriguez, will be here to discuss just how important it is for a child to attend one of our pre-kindergarten programs. And to give our students some advice on STEM careers, we'll talk with an HISD alumnus who became Director of Defense Research and Engineering for the U.S. Department of Defense. That's all today on HISD Up Close, and it begins right now. A good reader is key to a successful life. Students must master reading before they are able to truly succeed in any other subject. HISD has kicked off Literacy by 3, which is designed to have all students reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade. Joining me today to discuss Literacy by 3 is the Lance Mullaney. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've got a lot of questions that I want to ask you about our Literacy by 3 program. First, Lance, what is Literacy by 3 and how is it going to work in our classrooms?
Well, first of all, it's thrilling to be with you today, so I really appreciate this opportunity to speak on behalf of Literacy by 3. And frankly, what I would describe as probably one of the most exciting things happening in HISD, and we're really proud of where we are and where we're going. But one of the things that I just want to share that it's not new for us to be working on literacy in HISD. Certainly this has been an area where we've seen progress or stagnation and frankly, and some struggles. But one of the huge pieces that I think is a game changer for kids is that we have a district-wide approach called Literacy by 3. And essentially I can summarize that we have 5 core practices that when we do them well, provide quality professional development, support for our teachers and administrators, that it's going to be a game changer for our kids to read more and faster. And the 5 specific components include, first of all, really solid phonics instruction. Mm-hmm. The other piece is guided reading, where students work in small groups with their teacher with leveled texts, where students receive instruction at the just right level that moves their instruction forward. The other piece is students reading more, and that's the use of independent reading. And that's students reading in the classroom and at home with a just right book that's not too difficult, but that is not too easy and also matches their interests, and that's an important piece too. And then the other component is the use of a read-aloud strategy in the classroom, where teachers model fluent reading, they ask probing questions to get at critical thinking and comprehension. And then the other piece is students writing about what they're reading to make those connections. So phonics instruction, guided reading, independent reading, the use of read-alouds, and writing about our reading are the 5 core components of our Literacy by 3 approach.
Wow, that's great. So for those that are not entirely familiar about different reading programs and initiatives, how is this one different from what we've done in the past?
So I would describe one of the huge pieces that's different is alignment. The key alignment of our district curriculum, of the professional development our teachers are receiving, but the other piece is the resources that teachers have in our classroom. One of the things that we've seen across classrooms in the district, that you might see some reading materials in some classrooms on some campuses that are authentic books of fiction and nonfiction text, and in other classrooms that may not be the case. So the game changer is how we're outfitting every single kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade teacher in the district. And I brought some samples of these pieces to share today. So one key piece, which is a part of guided reading, is a leveled book room. And this is a school-wide library of books. There's over 5,400 books in this library, and they're leveled from A to Z because students read at different levels. And within each of these bins of books, there are small sets of 6 books for small group instruction for teachers to facilitate that just right instruction for kids. The other piece in addition to this for guided reading is that every single K-3 classroom in the district is going to receive a classroom library, which is really, really huge. And that's going to be approximately 300 books that are leveled from A to Z that students will read during independent reading, but also to take home to read with families, their family and their friends as well. And then the other piece for every single classroom in grades K-3 that we're also providing a read aloud library for modeled reading and to promote critical thinking and comprehension. And so just a couple samples of books that I brought together today. Here's a sample of a nonfiction text around thunder and lightning. And on the back of every single book is a specific reading level. So this is huge, that students will know what they're reading, but also that teachers are providing the right instruction based upon the reading level for kids. But also we're in a position to really educate our parents as well around where their child is reading. And here's another sample. This is a book about dinosaurs, and it's at a different reading level. And then there's another one, which is a narrative story, which is Shoe Fly Guy, and that's just a sample. And this is at another different reading level as well. So these are a sample of the kinds of books and that our students will have in their hands starting next year in HISD as a part of small group instruction with their teacher, but also for independent reading and books to take home. And so, the big game changer here is that kids have to have books in their hands, and they have to be reading more and reading for pleasure, and also books that are not too hard, but not too easy, but just at the just right level.
Wow, that's great. So now, Melanie, I want to ask you a question. What type of training and support are we giving our teachers so that way they can succeed and flourish with this particular program?
Well, so our department has partnered with Scholastic to provide guided reading training for our teachers. So all summer long, our teachers are participating in 4 days of guided reading training where they're getting the ABCs of guided reading. How do you set up your classroom? How do you set up classroom libraries? How do you plan your time so that you're meeting the needs of each and every student in your classroom based on their instructional level? And then we also have part of the training is actually training teachers on how do you do a read aloud, because there is a big difference between reading a book just to read a book, but teaching kids how to read books and think about text through think alouds. And so we created a whole day of training on just around how do you use your read aloud to teach comprehension skills. And so that's part of the 4 days of training that they're going to receive. But then also on the curriculum end, which is where my team and I are putting together our curriculum planning documents to kind of help facilitate how do we address all of the standards that the state of Texas requires us to teach while still meeting the needs of our students at the different levels that they're reading.
Wow. So Lance, what has been the teachers' reaction to this initiative?
So we started training, frankly, the very first week that we let out for the summer, and all throughout June, July, and the beginning of August, we will have worked with over 4,000 teachers by the time the new year starts, and the demand for the training has been huge. Right. And based upon just our initial first 3 weeks of the training, teachers have left feeling, number one, really, really jazzed and excited about the resources they're going to have in their classroom with the leveled texts and the book rooms and the classroom libraries. But the other piece is the kind of professional development that once they enter their classroom with their kids, that they know what to use with what to do with the text and to provide the just right instruction. And so that's really, really huge. And I can just share with you that the training is going on and the demand is huge. We've actually had to offer more sessions than we originally planned because teachers are so excited.
That's wonderful. And I also would like to follow up with you, Melanie. What's the reaction that we're getting from parents?
So what the sense that I'm getting from parents is that they're going to know exactly when they go to the bookstore to buy books for their kids. Kids will know what their reading levels are And they'll not only know that, but teachers are going to be able to teach their kids how to pick a book that is just right for them. So you're no longer going to waste money on books that will frustrate your kids, but you'll be able to put them in books that are just at their reading level. And then also, from a parent standpoint, like, we can physically see our kids improving with their reading. Because, like, I know, for me, I'm a parent. So if my daughter comes home first week of school and she's at a level B, my expectation is, right, that within a month's time, she should still not be in a level B. So we're being very transparent about reading instruction with what's happening in the classroom, bringing that home as well to our kids.
Well, thank you so much for your hard work. And I know that reading is so critical, and I just know that every child deserves the opportunity to be able to open up a book and have access to the entire world in front of them via that ability to be able to read. So thank you for all your time and effort, and I really look forward to seeing the great outcomes next year. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Even though we're in the summer months, kids, you must take some time to read, read, and read. Get online or visit the Houston Public Library. There's so many wonderful adventures you can have reading. Plus, you'll avoid the summer heat. Coming up next, we'll get some advice for students about STEM careers from the Lamar High School valedictorian of 1960, who later became the director for the U.S. Department of Defense. And still to come, we'll sit down with my fellow board trustee, Manuel Rodriguez. Stay with us.
Getting into a great school should never be about who you know, where you live, or how much you can afford to pay. Because every child deserves a high-quality education. That's what we believe. In HISD, our schools and programs prepare students for college and give them opportunities to achieve their dreams.
I plan to study petroleum engineering,
business administration,
biology and psychology,
mathematics, nursing, and finance.
I want to be an astronaut.
I'd like to do Broadway.
I want to be a lawyer,
I'm a doctor,
artist, or a magician, or a teacher.
We have the distinct honor and privilege today to have an opportunity to spend time with Professor Anita Jones. She's a professor, an American computer scientist, and the director of the Defense Research and Engineering for the U.S. Department of Defense from 1993 to 1997. She is a member of the National Academy of Engineering and the Council of Foreign Relations, and a proud HISD graduate. Thank you, Anita, for joining us here today.
I'm glad to be here, Juliet.
May I ask you to tell us a little bit about your experiences in HISD? Where did you go to school?
Well, I went all the way through from K through 12, all the way through in Houston schools. So I started at West University Elementary. In fact, I was so anxious to get there that I ran away from home the year before I was allowed to go, and I rode my tricycle about a mile, and they caught me, found me across the street from West University, because I knew where I was headed. So I was very anxious to go to school. So I went to West University through the 6th grade, and then I went to Pershing Junior High School, and then I went to Lamar High School, which was at that time one of the best high schools in Houston. And I had a great experience. I really enjoyed my time. As you can tell from my runaway story, I really wanted to go to school, and I enjoyed learning. I had good teachers. Although I do particularly remember in elementary school, I particularly liked the teacher who would read to us after lunch from novels and stories. I thought that was nice. I remember chemistry in Lamar. That was particularly interesting. But for me, a lot of what's important about school is the other students that I got to know over that time, and made some great friends. And I just had a very thoroughly good experience in Houston schools.
Anita, tell me a little bit more about your teachers and how they opened the world of educational opportunity to you.
Let's see. I must confess, I don't remember her name. It was a woman. I think, let me speak more broadly in answering that. I think the schools just encouraged me to want to learn more. Eventually I left and went to college right here at Rice University, so I stayed in Houston, and that was another tremendous experience. And sort of all told, one thing I learned is you want to do something that matters, or you want to help society, or you want to solve problems. And if you want to do that, so while you're in school, both in high school and in college, you want to learn some knowledge and skills that gives you something special so that people will invite you to come and solve their problems and work with them. And so I ended up being a computer scientist. I wanted to be where the action would be during my professional life, and it was clear that information technology was going to change society, and it has. So it was a great choice. And so I'm an engineer down to my toes. And I particularly think that being an engineer is a good choice for women, because as women we are taught to nurture and take care of people and make life better. And if you want to make life better for people, there's no better career than being an engineer, because you create what never was. Engineers create things that didn't exist before and that improve people's lives, all the way from spacecraft to wheelchairs.
Anita, if this room were filled with a group of students, what would you tell them in terms of what they can do to succeed in a STEM career?
Well, first of all, almost everybody can. First of all, don't be afraid of it. And I think that's particularly true for women, that they're concerned that they might not be good enough. But in fact, most people can excel. You know, learning a little math is not a big problem. You just have to not be afraid of it. And so just going out and doing something, making choices that maybe put you a little at risk, maybe you have to work hard, but it takes you to such wonderful places. You go places you can't go otherwise with a STEM career. So I highly recommend it, and especially for women.
Anita, you are a leader in the computational sciences, both nationally and internationally. Can you tell us how students can develop their leadership potential?
Well, I think the first thing that starts even in high school is to learn to communicate. I do, now that you remind me, I learned something at Lamar. I was one of the editors of the school newspaper, and I learned how to edit prose, and that's just part of communication. And to this day, that serves me in good stead. And so I think communication is critical in being a leader, and so you need to get comfortable with it. Giving a lecture, being at a podium, being asked questions in a TV interview. And then you just have to try things, and you gain, as you go along, you just gain more confidence. And for me, one of the tricks is that you forget about yourself and you think only about what job you're trying to do. When you're at a table of people, you think that these people are all very senior to me, what can I do? Well, don't think about that. Think about how you do the best job you can in the situation you're in, whether it's a discussion, whether you're writing a paper, whether you're with a group sitting on an oil derrick trying to solve an engineering problem. And forget who you are and what you're worried about, and just do the very best job, and you will be respected and you will emerge a leader.
Anita, I cannot thank you enough for joining us here today. You are a national and international treasure, an inspiration to all students, and we are grateful and thankful for your time.
Thank you, Juliet. I'm very pleased to be asked and to be here.
He's a fighting Mustang, the proud graduate of Austin High School, and a fellow Board of Education member. We welcome Manuel Rodriguez to HISD Up Close. Thank you so much for joining me here today, Trustee Rodriguez. Now, you've been serving on the board for the last 11 years, and I know that you first became involved as a parent and community member. So what were your plans when you first decided to run?
Well, when I first decided to run, I spoke with my wife and asked her if it would be okay, because our trustee was retiring. And I had been involved with the schools in my district since my oldest daughter, who is now 39, entered kindergarten. And so we were room parents, we were PTA, and then we graduated to area committees. And so I was familiar with the needs of the district. And when my board member decided to retire, the community came to me and asked me if I would consider running. And so, familiar with the problems and concerns, I thought that, and with the permission of my wife, we went ahead and ran.
So tell me, what's the past 11 years been like?
Well, it's a roller coaster. We've had good years and bad years. We've done a lot of good in the district. The obvious is we've passed 2 construction bonds, and with that we've built many, many new schools. With a previous board member, Ms. Davila, we were able to get with HCC and start the early high school colleges for dual credit, and our kids are now graduating with associate's degrees. I was also able to bring to the district a newcomer school, which is now Liberty High School, which serves overage students in order so they can graduate studying in their own language. And it's not just Spanish. We have, I think, 46 different countries represented at Liberty High School. Wow. The construction of new schools in District 3, Deanda has been the newest elementary school to be constructed. And so, you know, to see the education experience for all the students become more equitable across the district is probably the biggest goal that we've been able to accomplish, I believe, in my tenure here with the district.
Well, I'm just absolutely so appreciative of the early college system as well as the newcomer schools and just all the innovative ideas that you've been such a strong champion for, including the Twilight Academies. And another thing is your strong advocacy for Mexican American studies. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, I'm a veteran. I'm a born native Houstonian. And growing up, we studied Texas history in middle school. And we read all about Travis and Jim Bowie and Davy Crockett and all the other guys that fought at the Alamo and San Jacinto. And the only person we really heard about was General Santa Anna. And so there's a big void in the history that's taught to our children. Now that the district has become, or the state of Texas has become a majority-minority district, it's high time that our history reflects a more accurate picture of the contributions all minorities have played in the development of this state and this country.
So you were a very strong champion and advocate for the resolution that was sent to the State Board of Education, being a strong proponent for Mexican American Studies, being an elective for our high school students, correct?
That is correct. And it's something that's going to be state approved. It's not going to be something that's just been thrown together and things that we just want to highlight. It's just something that is to be developed that will show an accurate depiction of history and bring out the contributions that many people have played in this state and country.
So there are wonderful educators and community leaders and parents and scholars who are participating and creating a great Mexican American Studies course for our students, correct?
Well, just this morning I was in attendance of one of those conversations going on here in Houston. And there are conversations such as this going on throughout the state, in Austin, in the Valley, in West Texas. And so all of these things are bringing together different models, different ideas, and different discussions in order to be able to build a curriculum that will be inclusive, that will be accurate, and will be something to be proud of for our kids that are studying these courses.
Well, Trustee Rodriguez, I know that you have also served on the Mexican American School Board Association and have been the president of that statewide organization as well, correct?
Correct.
And so you are also a very strong champion for universal pre-K, is that
Yes.
true? And so can you tell me a little bit more about why is it so important for us to have universal pre-K for our students?
Well, Houston has an all-day pre-K paid for by the district. The state legislature 2 years ago cut the pre-K funding, and Houston decided to go ahead and fund a full day for the children coming into pre-K. Pre-K is very important for the early child because we know that children ages 3, 4, and 5 are just sponges. They absorb information as fast as we can give it to them. And if we can structure the information that they're receiving, then they'll be much better prepared when they enter into first grade, second grade, and be able to transition into the higher grades. Now, we have a lot of Spanish-speaking children, along with Vietnamese and Mandarin Chinese, that when they are learning the pre-K, they're not just learning a vocabulary to build on in a language, they're also learning social skills that they need in order to be able to participate in a structured environment. Many kids who I don't want to pick on only children, but don't have other children to play with, come in not knowing how to act, how to behave in an environment that's got 25, 30 kids. And there's property that's in the school, there's tools that they use. They have to know how to share and know how to use these tools in order to move on into the next grades.
Now, what if someone told you, Manny, I'm worried, is a 4-year-old too young to send to pre-K? What would you say to them as a parent and as a grandparent?
As a parent not having any children, I'd say, you're right. But as a parent now of 4 adult children, I say put them in as early as they can. We now know that in the womb, and I have a grandchild that's coming in October, you start playing music, you start talking to the baby in the womb, and they come better prepared than waiting until they're 5 or 6 years old and trying to teach them the basics. So a 4-year-old coming into school, 5-year-old, they need to come in, get that social introduction to other kids, to teachers, to ways to behave, mannerisms that they need to know, and also to build their vocabulary and understanding of the educational process.
Well, thank you very much for joining us here today, and I also want to thank you for being such a strong advocate for Mexican American Studies, universal pre-K for all, and also just being a tremendous advocate for your district and community.
Well, let me say that we've also now brought in laptops for all high schools.
That's right.
And I've been pushing that for a long time too.
And you're also an HISD product, correct?
Yes, I am a graduate of Austin High School, class of January 1970. I was the last high-low class.
Well, I am so fortunate to be the trustee for Austin High School, but I know we jointly represent Austin because you
Yes.
are one of their most celebrated alumnus. So thank you very much for joining us here today, and thank you for everything that you do.
Well, thank you for having me.
I want to thank all of my wonderful guests for spending time with me today. Remember, you can catch up with all the news happenings at HISD by following us on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Juliet Stipeche, and I'll see you next time on HISD Up Close.